Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Friday, April 2nd. Happy Good Friday to all you out there who do celebrate. And most of you are going to have a long weekend as well. But first of all, let's start off by reporting on space weather. Right now, our solar wind speeds are coming in at a 389.7 kilometers per second with a density of 5.9. Take a look at the sun. We see a large coronal hole that is Earth facing, and the last time we reported, we also had a small coronal hole Earth facing, and I did mention something about an earthquake. We'll get to that later, but we are looking at KP indices of around 2 and 3 right now. So we have an Earth facing coronal hole. KP indices not quite as low, but it is low enough now. So we'll continue to watch this. Again, this is nothing of a direct shot. It's just to the north of us, the coronal hole, as far as being a direct shot, but it will affect our magnetosphere. And I do anticipate a 6.5, a 6.7, somewhere in that magnitude in the next 24 to 72 hours. But looking at the sun, guess what? It's blank. In fact, according to NOAA, solar minima occurred more than a year ago. You wouldn't know it by looking at the sun. The solar disk is completely blank with no spots, and solar activity is very low. Solar minimum conditions are still in effect right now. This doesn't mean NOAA is wrong. Yeah, it does. But it's just a sign that the young solar cycle 25 is struggling to lift the sun out of a very deep minimum. This is according to SPACEWEATHER.com. If previous cycles are any guide, sustained activity will return before 2021 is finished. Stay tuned. Now, that's when we are expecting the uptick of this cycle to really begin. We really haven't seen much activity if you really take a look at the sun over the last several days. Yeah, we've had sunspots, but we're talking, if we have two sunspot groupings, we're talking sunspot numbers of 24 at tops when we had 2. So I mean, when you look at the size of these sunspot regions, and seeing the sunspot number on a single sunspot is around 11 to 13, 14 tops, that's still minimum conditions, and that's why SPACEWEATHER.com is reporting minimum conditions tonight. Obviously, you're looking at a blank sun. And another thing I want to point out, the cosmic radiation dosage rate is at 10% right now. It jumped up the last time we were on the air to 9.7. Remember, I was saying it's odd to see the 1% increase in 48 hours. Right now, there's no change to the cosmic radiation dosage rate in our atmosphere, but interesting to see values back up. And again, we have a blank sun, so we have a weaker magnetic field, and that is allowing more cosmic radiation into our atmosphere. That is the correlation here, why we are seeing the cosmic radiation go up. The sun is blank. And we have solar wind flowing in. We're looking at the possibility of a storm somewhere around April 5th through the 6th. A minor G1 storm, a minor one. Now, this coronal hole up here that we're looking at now could bring something a little stronger, but not expected. We're still trying to get out of the minimum cycle. TCI, the Thermosphere Climate Index, is at a 6.60. Like I said, KP is sitting at a 2 with a 24-hour max of also a 2 as well. Pardon me. Again, we're expecting possibility of a G1 storm on the 5th or the 6th of April. And again, 3 days in a row without sunspots. There is a region that we're watching in the southern part of our star that was expected to become a sunspot. But when you go to SPACEWEATHER.com, they don't even have this region circled. And usually when there is a sunspot that is emerging, SPACEWEATHER.com, even if it's not numbered, will at least circle the region that is starting to show the activity. And right now, they're not doing that, which means this active region has kind of fallen apart. So let's go over to thegrandsolarminimum.com, our space weather section, and we'll check out what additional stats we have right now, which we're looking at low solar X-ray flux. KP indices have been fluctuating between 1 and 2 over the past several hours, but nothing really as far as activity goes on the up and up. So we are quiet. And again, I think that has something to do with why the cosmic radiation numbers have gone up. Only because we are experiencing a weaker sun, and we're going to watch this coronal hole, and this one too. This will be like a 1-2 punch, one to the north, one to the south. Here we are in the middle. So we will get squeezed by 2 coronal holes with 2 potential solar wind events happening almost hours apart as far as that goes. So nothing major. I'm not sounding the alarm here, but the reason why we are seeing the increase in cosmic radiation is due to right now the sun is blank. Bigger coronal holes are formed. Let's look at the sun here in the overall big picture, shall we? We sort of have a crystal ball. There is the departing sunspot no longer. Here is the region that we thought could have been a sunspot region that we thought was going to develop. Even SPACEWEATHER.com thought it was. Nothing. And it's already pierced the eastern limb. This region up here in the northeastern part as well, this is about 4 days away from the northeastern limb. And right now, it doesn't look very organized when it comes to sunspot activity. So the sun has shown us so far, since we've come out of the bottom of this solar minimum, the sun has shown us that we are seeing a active period, and then things kind of calm down for a little bit. Whoa, holy hell. Good Lord. That's really bright. Holy. I think we're going to probably get rid of this idea because that was like ridiculous. Get like a soft blue hue here or something. Does it exist? Forget it. All right, so I tried, folks. I tried. Technology is just not my thing. But anyway, continuing with the quiet sun for the next week, and we've had sunspots for several days now. We are up to, what was it? Hold on, let's go back. 35 days this year without sunspots. Right now, it's possible that we could see another 5 to 7 days without sunspots. And that to me is the pattern of 4 to 6 weeks of sunspots and geomagnetic activity. And then we go into a 2 to 4 week period of no sunspots, coronal holes, which indicate weak sun, and minor G1 storms. And once again, we've been on a 3 to 4 week period of sunspots every day. And now we're starting to see an indication, not a for sure thing, but an indication that our sun may return to quiet conditions once again. And, we could see 5 to 7 more days without sunspots, or how these things work. They just pop up, and you have to take that into consideration as well. But right now, I'm already surprised that we're past 2 days without sunspots. So every day that we see spotless this week and beyond is going to be a surprise for me. I believe that this region was destined to turn into something, but it has failed to. And then this is just too early to call And it doesn't even look very organized. If anything, it's just a bright, active region at this time. So right now, our solar conditions are low. And what is the one thing about a low solar activity? What is the correlation with low solar activity in our climate? And tonight's show is going to indicate that as well. We've got a couple of things going on. First, let's talk about what's happening across the pond here, our friends in the UK and Europe. Temperatures much of the northwest Europe have hit record levels as unusually warm weather gripped the region on Tuesday, March 30th, starting with the UK, which registered its warmest day in March in about 53 years when the mercury scorched above 24 degrees Celsius. That's 75.2 for us Americans. The heat dome is forecast to dissipate in a couple of days, while a new area of high pressure is expected over Iceland and northern Britain. Forecast models call for a significant cool-off in the days ahead, centered first in southeast Europe, followed by another significant and widespread cold wave. On Tuesday, the UK sweltered its warmest day with about 76 degrees Fahrenheit at Kew Gardens, West London. It was slightly below the country's hottest March temperatures of 25 degrees 0.6 Celsius. That was set back in 1968 in Cambridgeshire. According to the Met Office forecaster Alex Burkill, Tuesday's temperature was exceptionally high for this time of year. But then it goes on to talk about the temperature plunge that we are going to see here in the UK and parts of Europe. And yeah, that blue stuff is snow showers. Now, right at this moment, we're not talking about anything insane, but the Alps definitely stand a chance of some decent snow. Some light snow showers across the UK, Ireland, Wales, and France, of course, Germany. Denmark might even see a shot of snow, but mainly rain here for the most part, but a lot colder temperatures. And, you would think, and they're not expecting anything to start warming up until around April 18th. Here's a look at the temperature anomaly map. You see all that warm air just hanging out. And then around April 4th, hello, my name is Mr. Winter. I'm here to cool you down just a little bit. Wow, that's significant. That's a cold blast. Now, pros and cons. Pros, it's happening in April. Cons, it's happening in April. What I mean by if this cold front would have came through in, say, January, this might have been a lot worse. Bad enough that we're experiencing the cold weather in a late part of the winter. I'd say, we're well into spring right now, so this is definitely something that is a late winter, early spring cold snap. And I just wanted to start off by reporting that because you guys have had some decent weather out there, and I've been a little jealous that you guys are so warm and we're so cold here in the Northeast. But it looks like you're getting your shot, so I don't have to be jealous anymore. No, just kidding. All right, anyway, 17th eruption at Etna. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, this thing is just going to keep going off, folks. And the low solar activity, the KP indices, the bombardments of highly charged particles into our atmosphere that go to the core, by the way. They just don't stop in the atmosphere. These highly charged particles will be soaked in to the core of our planet, heating up from within and causing these volcanic eruptions. And I think we see there's a few things that factor in with this. One thing that we don't talk enough about is planetary alignment. All right. And then you focus in on that part. And then you also focus in on what the sun is doing right now. See, guys, it's not just Earth that's going to be going through a grand solar minimum right now. The entire solar system is going with a grand solar minimum. Now, here is a little tidbit for us. Where are we right now as far as planet Earth is? Obviously. Why is it significant that we are here and everybody else is over here? I'll tell you what it is. So the blue indicates the weak connection between the sun and the magnetic field of anything over here. All the green indicates a strong connection. The reason we are seeing the green over here, we have more, the majority of the solar system. If you look at the sun and put a line right down the middle of your screen, you got Mars barely edging in where Earth is. Right now, we are all alone for the most part. So everybody's over here. Obviously, the more, the stronger, right? The connection, the magnetic connection to the sun is stronger because the majority of the solar system is over on this side of the sun. Meanwhile, the Earth is all alone. Now, what does that mean? That means a weaker magnetic field. That means if we do get a CME or a solar flare that's pretty strong, it could do some damage. And also, we are on the lookout for seismic activity and volcanic activity as well. And if you look at history and you look at all the major volcanic eruptions or the episodes that we see out of some of these volcanoes, they always happen during a period of low solar activity. You can line them up. We got the little chart on our website, thegrandsolarminimum.com, where it lists all the grand solar minimums from here all the way back before 1000, I believe. But no, this has everything to do also. So there's just so much affecting us right now. We have weak magnetosphere because of where we are in our planetary orbit, first and foremost. And that's why we're seeing more cosmic rays too, because we have a weak magnetosphere. You know, the atmosphere is allowing more particles to enter. It's not being protected like usual. On top of that, we are in the tail end of a La Nina, now neutral. You could say we're neutral now. And I got more, so just hang on. But there is a lot going on right now that is factoring in with what we're seeing. By the way, here's the 6.3 that I mentioned on our last broadcast. I put out a watch for a 6.3 to 6.5. There it is. It happened on the 1st of April, which was yesterday, 48 hours after our little watch for that. And that was because of a coronal hole. Wow. Got a frog in my throat. Hang on a second, folks. Okay, sorry about that. Much better. But anyway, we talked about the possibility of a 6.3 on our last broadcast on Tuesday. And it was because we had an Earth-facing coronal hole. KP indices were at 0 or 1, and the max was a 2. Those are almost, you can bet your bottom dollar we're going to see some kind of 6-point or higher earthquake. And sure enough, here it is, the 6.3. We also had a 6.0 that hit in the Fijis as well. So, again, I'm not an expert. I just report on this stuff, and all I'm doing is remembering basic conditions from, our star when we see these stronger earthquakes, and then you just connect the dots. I wish I was good enough to pinpoint the location of these. I'd probably be on a different level, but nonetheless, just being aware of why we're seeing earthquakes and volcanoes. Well, I'll show you why. It is the sun. And you can't tell me any different. And I'm so stuck on this right now because what I've seen today is insane. With temperatures and everything else. And there's another coronal hole too in the southern region that we will see. So solar weather has everything to do with not just the climate, but what's happening with volcanoes and earthquakes alike. Let's move it along here. Now I got some cold weather news. The deaths of nearly 200 people are linked to February's cold snap and blackouts, the Houston Chronicle analyst reveals, making the natural disaster one of the worst in Texas this past century. The tally, which is nearly double the state's official count, comes from an investigation of reports from medical examiners, justices of the peace, and Department of State Health Services, as well as lawsuits and news stories. The state count, which is preliminary, has yet to incorporate some deaths already flagged by medical examiners as storm-related. The 194 deaths identified by the Chronicle so far include at least 100 cases of hypothermia that killed people in their homes, or while exposed to the elements, at least 16 carbon monoxide poisoning to residents who used dangerous methods for heat, and at least 22 Texans who died when the medical devices failed without power or were unable to seek life-saving care because of the weather. 16 deaths were from other causes such as fires or vehicle wrecks, while the remaining 40 were attributed to the authorities to the storm without listing a specific cause. Think about this for a minute. And I wanted to bring this up because I reported on this. There was only 30 people that died from that cold snap. And this kind of stuff spooks me a little bit. Someone put a comment in our video the other day asking us why we moved to the Northeast. We know what's happening, what's coming with the grand solar minimum and whatnot. And, you know, we know what's going to happen when it's going to happen. Right now, this is where our destiny has led us. And there's a reason why we're in this part of the United States. And I don't know if it's going to be to the point where we're not going to be able to sustain a livable life. Mari and I are prepping hard, first and foremost. Secondly, we're doing everything to the house right now. So when we're installing drywall and insulation, we're keeping in mind how cold it's going to get in the winters there. And I can tell you something right now. I'm not worried about this house not staying warm. It's going to be furnished with gas heat. We have a fireplace that does a great job for at least the downstairs. But the other interesting thing is to kind of help keep the pipes all right when we're there working. We'll turn on the kerosene heater in the downstairs basement, and that heat rises. And there's actually a couple of vents in the house from the basement floor that are still exposed, and you can feel the heat coming up. So we've insulated this house really well. I feel like that this is going to be a warm and efficient home. Part of the thing about remodeling something that's yours is that you get to do things and build it the way you want it to sustain your lifestyle. So, yes, when I read stories like this about people dying of hypothermia because of the cold snap back in February in Texas, they're not used to this. This type of stuff is going to become more frequent when we get closer to the 2030s. And beyond, it's just going to be insane. So you ask yourself, well, if it's going to be that cold in Texas in 10 years or less, what's it going to be like in the Northeast? We are in uncharted territories. We fear the worst, but we are prepared to do the best at this point. We can only hope that ingenuity and technology step up, and I think we're a more advanced civilization. And the key to this whole grand solar minimum prep is adapting. I don't think there's a perfect solution out there. There's a lot of folks who have some great ideas, ranches, private property like that, having a small community of people to pitch in and do their part. Those things, that would be great. But how many of you out there actually like working with other people or complete strangers? Some of you trust yourselves and your family, and that's enough. So there's a lot of things to think about. When you make the comments about moving up to the Northeast, well, it just depends on what kind of person you are. Now, obviously, if things got too hairy, it's time to get the H out of Dodge. I get that. But at the time, I think Mario and I have a pretty good understanding of what's going to happen in the Northeast. And we are preparing ourselves to where we can keep our house warm if the power goes out. Plus, with our prepping supply to make sure we have food and everything else, it's just a matter of what fits and what works for you and your lifestyle. I can't tell you folks to move near the equator. Not all of us have that kind of budget. Not all of us can leave the country. Some of us have family we have to stay here for. Buying property 3 states away may not be an option for you either. So if you have to stay in place where you are, you have to prep the best you can. And like I said, the remodeling of this house, we've done it all from electrical, plumbing, you name it. We make sure we put the proper drywall, the proper insulation, the proper spray foam going in and cracks. I mean, this house is going to be completely sealed. So hopefully, I'm confident so far. Just having a kerosene heater run in the basement, keeping the whole house at a reasonable temperature. I think Mari and I have done a heck of a job so far on insulating. So, but as far as folks in Texas go, and this is where the biggest problem is going to be, are they insulated their properties enough? And I've been back and forth. I've said, well, you live in Texas, they don't really insulate for the heat. And then somebody said in the comments, well, we have it insulated for the AC. I'm like, okay, good point. It's hot down there. And if you don't have good insulation, that cold air leaks out. So then I made that comment, and somebody else says, well, I've been in a lot of homes in Texas, and they're insulated like crap. So either way, let's just say Texas is in an area that's not used to what we saw back in February. And if these were happening more often, it's going to start alarming people. They're going to have to take action and not just talk about it. But it's time to upgrade your home's code. Insulate. Insulate, insulate, insulate. I can't stress it enough. This type of danger will repeat itself if homeowners don't take this as a lesson. If you think this is just a once in a freak time incident, well, it is, but at the same time, these incidents will start to pile up here in the coming years. And then by the time we get to the 2030s, it won't even be news to talk about because we're so used to it. The cold snaps that far south. And right now, our sun is showing us minimum conditions. Again, I'm showing you stuff that is correlated to the science of what the sun does to our planet. Man, according to the mainstream media, causes climate change, causes global warming. So what's the excuse for Texas seeing this cold snap and killing 200 people? By the way, during February, still a low solar activity month for us, even though we had little sunspots, still nothing. The sun is in low minimum conditions right now. On top of the fact that we're dealing with La Nina, Sweden cancels controversial balloon test to artificially cool the earth. I can't believe this is actually a real thing. Can you imagine? I've heard Bill Gates wanted to spray aerosols into the atmosphere to block the sun. Boy, that would have got all the chemtrailers all up and hot and bothered, that's for sure. But can you imagine, knowing what you know, that the sun is already dimming, and it will continue to do so through the 2050s? You know the sun's dimming. You know we're cooling. And if you don't believe me, I'll prove it. I'll prove it to you. And again, it has everything to do with solar activity. But could you imagine, let's just say a man had the technology to block the sun, to spray the sky and cool us down. Can you imagine the sun already TSI at 1360.5 or lower? Okay, and during maximum, we see values of 1362 and higher during maximum. So, that's 2 squared watts per something. I don't know, 2 meters per squared watt or something like that. I can't remember the exact combination of the TSI, but still, that's a lot. 2. It's very, very delicate. The increase and decrease of the sun's TSI does not jump up 2 values in overnight. This is a timely manner. But anyway, back to lowering TSI already from the sun naturally, and then you block the sun. Now you're creating cloud nucleation, right? With the particulates. Think about this. Jesus. You got the already particulates that are in our atmosphere. Then you have highly charged particles that create cloud nucleation and massive precipitation. And think about if we were spraying more particles in the atmosphere to block the sun, that would double the cloud nucleation, right? Maybe triple it. We're talking some temperatures that would drop big time. So why would Sweden cancel its controversial balloon test to artificially cool the Earth? And I'll tell you why. The proof of what is happening right now is this. Now, for the first time since 2017, late 2017, we are officially below baseline. That's right. Look at that massive drop. Last month's value jumped up to 0.20 for February, which was a shock because we had all that cold, right? What's going on? Why are we seeing, look at this. We were at a 0.63 just back in the fall of 2020. And early 2021, the first 3 months, we've dropped all the way below baseline. Now, the UK has scrapped their grants for green insulation, all that stuff, going by the Green New Deal policy stuff, basically. The Build Back Better Green is what they say, or Build Back Greener, whatever. They've canceled it. They said, whoa, our economy's already hit, and it's getting hit even more because we're not seeing the results of lack of CO2 helping with climate change. We're not seeing that. In fact, the temperatures, and let's back up because here in the United States, there's no official Green New Deal policy, so we can't blame it on Dems yet. We haven't enacted those yet. So why is the temperature dropping? Can't blame man's lack of activity or the fact that atmospheric CO2 is hovering around 417 parts per million. That's interesting. CO2 levels continue to rise and temperatures have dropped below baseline from October to March. It has dropped almost a full degree in 6 months. Now, remember the 1.5 degree is where we want to be above baseline. That's the top. That's the maximum. We're in a climate crisis right now because we're below baseline. We are now 2 degrees below the climate emergency, the end of the world that AOC promised everyone. In 12 years that the world would be over. That was 3 years ago. So now it's 9 more years until that happens. Because the climate is changing and the temperature is rising. And you look at this graph and you say, well, it looks like it's going up to me. I see a slightly rise and then a plateau. And then we see a drop here. I mean, we've seen similar drops within this last 2 minimums. And this is what I want people to focus on right here. Right here. Because we had our solar max, the peak of it right there. Right before we went into our minimum. All right. Look at the drop from here to here in just 5 years. That's quite a bit. Considering this number up here is 0.83. So we're talking about almost 0.9 degrees drop in 5 years. Now, if you want to compare to where we were in 2009 at the peak of the last minimum, look at the effects had after that solar minimum. Look at 2010's winter was one of the coldest. Remember all the record breakers we had in 2010 and 11? And then we shot up. Shot up. But I don't think that trend is going to hold anymore. We're not done. And I thought March was seasonable around the globe. I thought everything was happening right on cue, as it should. So seeing the UAH drop it all the way down to a minus 0.01 is astounding to me. I know myself, and I won't say any other names, but I thought we were going to see a rise somewhere around 0.31 above baseline. That was my honest, give it the old college try guess at the UAH. And boy, was I wrong. And every time I make a prediction, it's always drastically wrong in the other direction. So, what's my point? Well, we're cooling. It's already showing us that. We've been cooling since 2016, really 2014. Massive drops in temperatures, not once, but twice now. And the last time we saw this drop, it was more of a step down. This is a drop in temperatures. The last time we seen this kind of drop, I believe it was the last El Nino we had. If I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's quite the drop, guys. To see it go down this fast, and I'm not talking about the other peaks here. I'm talking about this, from here to here, in the short period of time. I mean, it just fell off a cliff. You look at here, after our maximum, and we had a huge drop, and then it kind of just stepped it on down a little bit more. Are we going to see that here? Are we going to continue to see this go down even further before it starts to warm up? And here's the thing, the northern hemisphere is getting ready to go into their summer. We're already almost midway through our spring. I'm not impressed with the extended forecast for my region. I don't know about you guys. It don't feel like spring. I watched baseball highlights for several games. It looked like a damn blizzard in Detroit. I was confused on what season it was, watching this much snow flying around. So, anyway. So why are we looking at this? Okay, well, I want to prove a couple things. Low solar activity is contributing to this. Also, all the volcanic eruptions, I know we have to be at 55,000 feet for it to affect the global or the regional climate, and higher will do global in the 180,000 and up. But is it possible that we've have so many volcanoes still going off and producing enough emissions to interact with particles in our atmosphere and create cloud nucleation, creating more cloud coverage, thicker clouds, less TSI absorbed by our oceans? Yes. Here we go. Nino 4 index staying neutral. The Nino 3 index dropping, as you can see here. The Nino 1-2 index also dropping. The North Atlantic anomaly right now is up and down, but has significantly dropped during the same time that we've talked about, it looks like, the UAA drop. If you look at this graph and watch it drop along with, there's the rise in temps that we saw in February. It was at 0.20. And then we dropped in March below baseline. And look at that. The ocean cooled a lot from where we were in February. Let's continue. Oh, there's more. Atlantic MDR sea surface temperature is dropping now below baseline. You can see that steady decline. I think I just showed the same thing twice. Yeah, definitely. All right. Caribbean It is dropping as we speak, very slowly, but it is declining. East tropical Atlantic temperatures also declining, below baseline even. South tropical Atlantic is dropping, trying to come back, but it is almost 0.7. I mean, it's 0.464 below baseline right now. Peaked out at 0.6 below baseline. South tropical Atlantic, folks. Look at this. Here's your El Nino staying neutral. I mean, when's the last time you seen a map that showed this much blue? Usually we see a lot of the orange and yellows, and then the oceans are white. You know, the temperature change in 24-hour period is just, it's been neutral. Look at all this cold water off of Africa, here in the North Atlantic. Now, the Gulf is warming up. The east coast of the United States, waters are warming up nicely. But look at here on the west coast. Still cold. Warmer waters trying to make it to this area. Trying. So what's my point? You got all this cold weather. You got low solar activity. The temperatures in the oceans are dropping. I mean, this is low for Hawaii this time of year, folks. We're in the 26, 27. And you can thank La Nina for this. Even right in here, guys, this is usually in the 30 values, 31 sometimes. We are severely cool out in the Western Pacific and other parts of our oceans. So I have a question for Al Gore. Why are all of these graphs going backwards? They're going down. They're not going up. There were only 2 ocean charts that had temperatures that were rising. 2. And 1 neutral. And here we are dropping like a rock. Cooling. We are below baseline. Guess what? Climate crisis is over. It's not going to blow up like we thought. But now they'll say that global warming, man-made global warming has caused it to be cold out now. Because it's so much global warming, it got cold. Don't worry about how that makes sense, because it just does. Bill Nye will confirm it for us. Oh, Billy. I mean, guys, okay. So Sweden cancels its cosmic radiation, or its particle blocking of the sun program. Bill Gates was talking about doing it. You notice that lost steam now, so they're not doing that now. The UK has canceled their green grants. They're broke from it. It definitely encouraged their deficit. I'll tell you that right now. They did not gain anything from this stuff. Maybe we're not polluting the air and the drinking water as much. That's fine. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good enough, right? Is it enough to raise your taxes for it, though? Is it enough to blame your actions? A classic example of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. It's easy for me to say. Pete Buttigieg was seen getting out of one of his Secret Service vehicles, and then a bike being brought out of one of those Secret Service vehicles, and Pete gets on the bike and rides it down the street to his office in D.C. Oh, I just want to make sure people know that I'm for the environment. I'm going to ride my bike to work. That's what Pete says. But let's transport the bike in a third row SUV with a giant engine and gas guzzling, because I'm protecting the environment. But I got to transport my bike by the largest vehicle on the road that consumes the most gasoline. Meanwhile, we're looking at this on the UAH. I'm going crazy over here, guys. I'm sorry. It's just, to me, the evidence is overwhelming. You got SPACEWEATHER Live talking about, hey, we're still in a minimum, all quiet on the sun. You know, you look at our planetary alignment right now, which is insane when it comes to magnetic and the gravitational pull of the gas giants. And we're all alone out here, basically. The weakest part of the electric connection to our sun, the magnetic field, is at its weakest because it doesn't have any support right now. So if the sun doesn't have to, if it has to only give its attention to one planet versus the others, it's not that much output. But when you have to concentrate on all the planets in the solar system on one side of the star, it strains the sun on the other side. So weak sun, low magnetosphere, high cosmic radiation, colder temperatures, lower ocean temperatures. And by the way, we also want to mention that the other reason why we're seeing a low temperature this month too is that we are seeing the maximum effect from the La Nina. Remember, we talked about this a few months ago, that we will see the maximum effect sometime between February, March, or April. I know that's a wide window, but here we are. March really is the month that counts. And it's dropped below baseline. Will it continue to drop? Just because it's heading into spring here in the northern hemisphere doesn't mean it's going to get warm. We still have to see another month of data. And I'll be honest with you, like I said, I'm not impressed with my local forecast. I'm not happy whatsoever. We had snow yesterday, flying around everywhere, pissing everybody off. I know, I'm being a bad boy tonight. But listen, it is time for warm weather, not snow. And we are seeing it again in the Northwest. More snow trying to invade, once again, Alberta and BC. High pressure dominating over the first few days of April. Quiet weather for most of us. Some rain in the Great Lakes. Snow showers in the Northwest. And that rain in the Great Lakes kind of forms another low pressure that reaches back to the Dakotas. And it's going to bring some late snow for you guys out there. But this system doesn't know what it wants to do. It could be an explosive system as well and bring severe weather to Kentucky, West Virginia, and western Pennsylvania. Lots of rain heading towards the Northeast and the East Coast. And once again, the Southeast could be looking at severe weather. But this time it's going to be more focused in the Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina area. The East Coast into the Northeast. Heavy rain starting really around April 8th. And beyond. And that low pressure spinning around doesn't leave. Here we are, April 12th, still on the East Coast. And yes, that is more snow that could happen late Sunday night, early Monday morning in parts of upstate North Country, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Meanwhile, Northwest, Oregon, and Washington still looking at snow showers scattered into Montana, Wyoming, like usual. But look at that. High pressure sinking back into the Northeast. It means cooler temperatures. The rest of the country should warm up just nicely, but that rain that moves through in mid-April, that's going to bring traces of snow with it. And lots of snow in Montana and Idaho by the middle of April. Still snow showers in Portland and Seattle, parts of Washington. So the good news is, I guess, if there is any good news, this colder weather, here's a chance for a potential severe outbreak here on the 9th. That's next Friday. We had another chance before that. It was in Kentucky. Yeah, right here on the 8th of April. So the 8th in Kentucky and West Virginia, the 9th for the Southeast into the 10th. Some strong storms in southern Wisconsin as well. And really, it just stays kind of quiet. Some snow showers in the Northeast and the Northwest. Some rain showers across the Ohio Valley by mid-April. And I'll tell you, if anything, we have seen, and usually the GFS, you can't really rely on past 7 days. But it's kind of a relief to see that we're starting to see a little bit of a calm down situation for the South, because they've been getting pummeled by severe weather and tornadoes. Same with Tennessee on the heavy rain. So here's what our temperatures are going to look like. This is tomorrow. Pretty nice across the Central Plains states. Ohio Valley and Northeast still experiencing like late fall temperatures. Still warm across the Central Plains. Starting to warm up across the Kentucky and Ohio Valley. 60s and 70s, though, across the South. That's it, guys. Some people are experiencing their spring break right now. And we're only seeing daytime highs in the low 70s. even in the deep south. Then it starts to heat up on April 6th. Texas, Florida, the usual areas. But look at that cold air filtering into the northwest and keeping that heat confined just to the deep south. 70s in the Ohio Valley by Friday of next week, but that's it. It pushes some of that warmth towards the East Coast. And look at all this green, 50s and 40s. Ugh. Mid-April, you want more of that red stuff out there that Texas has. They're hogging it all right now. Oklahoma, Texas, and Florida is where it's going to be as far as heat. Look at the West Coast by April 13th. So here in the United States, in regions, not everywhere, but regions of our United States will experience some pretty brutal cold for this time of year. Golly, look at the contrast in that. 92 in Central Texas and 26 degrees near Las Vegas. Wow. Contrast. What is this? Grand solar minimum, right? I mean, this is perfect example of the up and down roller coaster of regional weather. Look at this. Insane, guys. And again, the Northwest, the Northeast, both experiencing below average temperatures for April, folks. Remember, Noah told us how warm it was going to be this month. So April doesn't really start getting warmer for everybody until after look at this. Daytime highs for April 17th. Somehow the Northeast has some warmer temperatures than certain parts of North Carolina. Some very, very, very strange signatures showing up on the GFS. Nonetheless, it is showing us that things are remaining cool so far. Now, I'm not one for predictions. I hate doing them because when I get caught up in them, that's missing the point here. But I'm putting it out there. I would not be surprised, and I've already said this before, but I'm reiterating this. The Northeast, the Great Lakes, like Michigan, Wisconsin, parts of northern Ohio, northern Indiana, and the Northwest, I believe we could see some very cool conditions during the summer. We'll get a hot spell, short period, but I think we'll be fighting temperatures this summer to get to normal heat, in my opinion. And that's just again, this is the very beginning of a grand solar minimum. So to see these slight temperature variations now, fast forward 5 to 6 years from now, imagine that. And the frequency will only get worse throughout the 2030s and the 2050s. So lots to go over still. This doesn't happen overnight. And I think folks understand that as well. Looks like we might be having a signal issue here, Maury. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up while we're at it. Want to say hello to a few people out in the chat. Knife Collector, good to see you. Dorothy Rose. Edward, always a pleasure to have you here. Very enthusiastic gardener, Laura. Thank you for your support. Here be Dragons and Pete Zahat. Good to see you as well. Everybody say hello to Mari. She's in the chat, keeping track of everybody, making sure everybody's behaving and just, doing what she does the best, right? Keeping the animals quiet during the broadcast, which is almost impossible. But she does the best she can.
I was telling them about Coco, our 17-year-old cat.
He's really 1,000 years old. Richard Davidson from New Mexico. Good to see you in here, sir, as well. Lots of new faces. I love seeing it. Every time I look at this chat, to see the new faces out there, it's good, as well as to see the old faces as well. Hello, Brenda Williams as well, one of our newer subscribers, I believe. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel for your latest Grand Solar Minimum news. Again, cooling is the big takeaway from tonight's broadcast. We are seeing it from the oceans. The oceans are cooling. When the oceans cool, the global temperature is also cool. And that is where we are right now, below baseline for the first time since 2017. And that was short-lived. So will this be another short-lived, or will this hover around baseline? I don't know. The drop is incredible. So this is going to be an interesting next few months, especially if I think things are going to stay rather cool across most of the United States, especially in the Northeast, Great Lakes region, and Northwest. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you really appreciate what we do, check out our Teespring store. It's on our YouTube channel. Or become a member, even as low as $1.99, I think it is, on YouTube, $1 at Patreon. Just look at it as a tip jar thing. You know, you're giving us $1 a month. It's like one of those commercials. For 63 cents a day, you get Jake and Mari a cup of coffee. How about that? So, all right, guys, we hope everyone is safe. Have a great holiday weekend, and we will talk soon. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.